Haristutihi, Shloka 26. After having explained Advayam Brahma according to the Upanishad teachings, the same as described in Bhagavad Gita is taken up in this shloka. So the verse is Drishtva Gita Swaksharatatvam Vidhinajam Bhaktya Gurvya Labhya Hridistham Drishimatram Dhyatva Tasmin Asmyahamityatra Viduryam Tam Samsara Dhvanta Vinasham Harimide. Anvayarthaha Gitasu Ajam Aksharatatvam Drishtva Gurvya Bhaktya Hridistham Drishimatram Alabhya Tasmin Ahamasmi iti Vidhina Dhyatva Atra Yam Viduhu Tam Samsara Dhvanta Vinasham Harim Ide. Gitasu. In the many verses of Bhagavad Gita, Ajam Akshara Tattvam, about Bhagavan, who is not subject to birth and whose essential reality is being invariable. He is changeless. Drishtva, learning this reality from acharyas, and then Gurvya Bhaktya, with intense devotion and an interest in reasoning and analyzing and making an enquiry into the reality, Hridistham, in this very same intellect itself, as the self-effulgent Swaprakasha Vastu, Drishimatram, is that consciousness alone, which is in the form of a witness, because Chaitanya Vastu is not involved in any karma. Alabhya, like that, understanding this by Shravanam and Mananam, Tasmin Ahamasmi iti, further knowing that in that Brahman I am, Vidhina, and this knowledge is gained as taught by the Shastras. And then Dhyatva, after further contemplation, Atra, while still living in this very body form itself, Yam Viduhu, that Brahman who is understood by the seekers as the reality of I. Tam samsara dhvanta vinasham harimide. I worship that Hari, the destroyer of ignorance which causes samsara. Now we will look at the shloka in a little more detail. Gita Su. In Bhagavad Gita chapter 8, the topic is Aksharam Brahma. It is about imperishable Brahman. There, Arjuna, in the beginning of the chapter, he asks 7 questions to Bhagavan, to which as an answer, Bhagavan talks about Ajam, Akshara Tattva. Now here Arjuna addresses Krishna as Purushottama, and then he asks the questions. So the verse is Kim Tad Brahma? One question. Kim Adhyatmam? Second question. Kim Karma? Third question. Adhibhutancha Kim Proktam? Fourth question. Adhidaivam Kim Uchyate? It is the fifth question. Then in the second verse, Adhiyajnaha Katham Kaha Atra Dehe Asmin Madhusudana. This is the sixth question. The seventh is Prayana Kalecha Katham Nyeyaha Asi Niyatatma Bhihi. This is the seventh question. So in English, the same questions I will repeat. He is asking, O Purushottama, what is that Brahman? What is it that is centered on the self? What is karma? What is it that is spoken of as being centered on the beings? And what is it that is said to be centered on gods? And then, how and who is that which is centered on rituals here in this body? And further, at the time of death, how are you known by those whose minds are steady? Iti. To that, Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. Bhagavan answers as Aksharam Brahma Paramam Swabhavo Dhyatma Muchyate Bhuta Bhavoddhavakaro Visargah Karma Sanyitah Adhibhutam Sharo Bhavah Purushaschaधिदैवतम् Adhiyajñohamevatra Dehe Dehabhritam Vara. So he says, Brahman is limitless and not subject to change. So what is limitless and not subject to change is Brahman. Its manifestation centered on the body is called as the Jiva. Then what is known as karma is an offering which causes the production of bodies for the beings. And then further, what is centered on the beings, adhibhutam, is that which is subject to decline. That is, the jiva, the body, is subject to what is known as the sixfold modifications, Shadbhava Vikaraha. We know that a being is born, Jayate. Then for some time it exists, Asti. Then it grows and develops, Vardhate. Then it undergoes a lot of changes, Viparinamate, both internal changes as well as external changes. Then with time, Apakshiyate, it decays. And then finally, Vinashyati, it is destroyed. Like this, every object has these sixfold modifications. So, that which does not decline is also free from these modifications, and that is Aksharam Brahma, that which is not subject to any change whatsoever. And that can only be Parama, not conditioned by place, time, or any given attribute. So, not being subject to change, Brahman is Ajam, unborn, which means it has to be all pervading. So, this Param Brahma can be only Satchidananda Atma. About this Satchidananda Atma, Drishtva, that is Acharyebhyaha Jnatva, by knowing properly, clearly from a teacher. So that is, one approaches a teacher with proper attitude. When you approach a teacher with proper attitude, naturally the teacher will bless you with this knowledge. Then you as a seeker will gain a clear vision. So then your commitment to learning also increases. So Gurvya Bhaktya, which means by doing proper Shravanam and Mananam. That is, inquiring and analyzing what has been taught properly. Inquiring means doing vichara of Mahavakyas like Tattvamasi, what is Tat Padartha, what is the meaning of Tvam. This kind of a inquiry is done, and then Aham Ityatra. In the process of knowing what is Aham, you negate whatever is not Atma. That is, while inquiring about the nature of I, everything which is not I anatma vishaya is eliminated. So, in this regard, how do you do this process of thinking? Iti beautifully Bhagavad Padaha has taught in Dasha Shloki. We'll just take one verse from that and see how this is done. In every shloka of Dasha Shloki, the first 3 quarters Bhagavad Padaha mentions the forms which are usually taken to mean I, but then upon inquiry they are known as not I, that which is not I. One understands that they are all anatma vishaya, which are bound by time, space, object. So then by negating such anatma vishaya, what is left is Chaitanyam alone. So like that, one gets to know the reality of I. So this first verse in Dasha Shloki is Na bhumi na toyam na tejo na vayuhu na kham nendriyam va na tesham samuhaha anaikantikatvat sushuptyeka siddhaha tadeko vashishta shivah kevaloham. See, very beautifully Acharya is teaching us where do you start your process of inquiry iti. So in the first 3 lines, that's what he is teaching us. He says first na bhumihi aham, which is the basis of everything. About I, when I start making an inquiry, I first look at the objects which are external to me. So then I see that this earth is not I, this water, that is not I, the fire element, that is not I, air element, that is not I, and then the space, that is also not I. It's not any of the 5 sense organs and not even a collection of all the elements put together. Why is that? Because all these are subject to destruction at some time. So then how do I know who am I? In deep sleep, that consciousness which remains as a witness, and because of that only you are able to recall that you slept well or you dreamt when you wake up. That is, one understands that this consciousness is not subject to waking or dreaming or sleeping, but it remains as a witness. So that I is understood as I am, and I am the only one, Advitiya, Avinashi, indestructible, and that I always remain as Drishimatram, as the Chaitanya Vastu, consciousness alone. And that consciousness, where do I obtain? Is there a place that I know? So then the verse says, Hridistham. Here Hridi means Buddhau, Sakshitvena. So that reality is known within one's own intellect as a witness. And so, who is that? That consciousness is I. So, Labhyaha. This truth, the Swarupa of I, the self, is understood like this. That is, all along the one who was the seeker in this pursuit, and all that is seen as objects, they are all one. There is identity here. So, Drik, the seer, and Drishyam, that is all which is seen as this Jagat, they are understood as one. That is, upon reflection, one sees or one visualizes this whole Jagat obtaining in the consciousness. Min in that Akshara Brahman, how do I experience the self and know the self? Now, this is taught very well in Bhagavad Gita verse, which is in chapter 12. ये त्वक्षरम् अनिर्देश्यम् अव्यक्तं पर्युपासते सर्वत्र गमचिन्त्यञ्च कूटस्थम् अचलं ध्रुवम्. It means those who contemplate upon that which is not subject to decline, ye tu aksharam, and then that which is indefinable, anirdeshyam, that which is not available for any kind of objectification, avyaktam, paryupasate, those who contemplate upon that. And further, that which is not available for objectification is all pervasive. It is that which is all pervasive, sarvatragam. And it is not an object of thought, it is achintyam. Further, it is that which abides in Maya, which does not move, achalam. And this is eternal, kutastham. It is eternal, it never changes. And all these are me alone, because when they discover the meaning of these words, that is the yogis and the seekers, when they discover the meanings of these words, they discover me alone, says Bhagavan Krishna. And then it is not going to separate them from me. That is, Bhagavan says, this kind of a contemplation, it will lead the seeker to the end where they become one with Bhagavan. And such people will always have samatva buddhi. They will be equal-minded and take delight in the welfare of all the beings. So, tasmin aham asmi iti. That Brahman whom I have been seeking outside of me in ignorance is the Swarupa or truth of I, the Jiva. Iti. How is this known? Dhina. It is known by going properly and seeking a teacher, prostrating before the teacher, and expressing a proper attitude. So this is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita as Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshyanti te jnanam jnaninaha tattvadarshinaha. So this knowledge of the self can be gained by offering salutations to the teacher, doing namaskara with respect, asking proper questions, and serving the teacher, listening with great concentration to what the teacher is teaching. So in all these actions, proper attitude is implied. That is, one has to show respect to both the teacher and the knowledge. Then, with more devotion and commitment to the knowledge and seriousness in learning, one has to do more contemplation, dhyatva. On what is taught, one sits and contemplates, deliberates upon. And then what will happen? This will lead to atra anubhuyamanaha. This will lead to a direct experience of visualizing the jiva as that which is non-separate from that akshara Brahman. So like this, yam viduhu, the Brahman who is understood, tam samsara dhvanta vinasham harimede. So those who do Akshara Brahma Upasana, they are not ordinary people. So knowing that Aksharam Brahma, the ignorance of the self, which is the cause of samsara, is destroyed. So unto that Hari, I offer my prayer. Iti, the shloka is ended. But here, let us look at a few more verses in Bhagavad Gita which bring out this Advaita Bhava. In chapter 13, Bhagavan says, Kshetrajñam chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. He says that Kshetrajña, the one who knows the Kshetram, that is the physical body, mind, sense complex, this Kshetrajña is to be understood by you, Krishna, and any seeker as me, Parameshwara. Then everyone understands the Kshetrajña to be a samsari. But then here Bhagavan says Kshetrajña is identical with Ishvara. And then in another verse in the same 13th chapter, he says, Nyeyam yattat pravakshyami yajñatva mritam anadimat param brahma na sattan nasaduchyate. Nyeyam yat. What is to be known? That I will tell you clearly. Yat jnatva, knowing which one gains deathlessness, amritam ashnute. So that is said to be Brahman, which has no beginning, anadimat. It is limitless and it is neither existent as an object, sat, nor non-existent, asat. So this self-evident Atma, which is not the object of cognition like it is, sat, or it is not, asat. This is presented as Brahman, or you can say this is taught as Brahman, the cause of creation. Then further in chapter 18, Bhagavan says, Sarva bhuteshu yenaikam bhavam avyayam ikshate avibhaktam vibhakteshu tadjnanam vidhi satvikam. What he means is, you have to know that to be sattvika knowledge, by which one knows that one changeless existent in all things and beings, and the undivided among the divided is that Brahman. In other words, the knowledge by which one sees many things, but at the same time one is able to see that only one in the many is Sattvika. Essentially, in all the beings, the one that has not undergone any change whatsoever in itself or in terms of attributes, and upon which all the names and forms, nama, rupa, is a superimposition. That reality is avyayam, changeless, and that is the basis of everything. Like this, the identity of Jiva and Brahman is unfolded through many verses in Bhagavad Gita. With this, I'll end the explanation here. Drishtva Gita Swakshara Tattvam Vidhinajam Bhaktya Gurvya Labhya Hridistham Drishimatram Dhyatva Tasmin Asmyaham Ityatra Viduryam Tam Samsara Dhvanta Vinasham Harimide. Namaste.